Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our series of Ask Masters. Today, we are going to talk about input tax credit, which is something very important in the GST regime. And to help us understand this concept, we have with us CA Colin. Welcome, Colin.
Thank you, Sadamini. Welcome all. Good evening all.
Good evening, Colin and everyone. It would be great if someone could confirm if they can hear us and see us. Once you'll confirm, we are good to go. Okay, great. So we have the confirmation that we are audible and visible. So let's get started with today's session. Today, our speaker is Colin, CA Colin. He has been in the CA fraternity for over a decade now, and his area of expertise lies in indirect taxation. Welcome, Colin. It's an honor to have you on our platform of Ask Masters.
Thank you once again.
Yes. So to start our discussion, now we all know the topic is about input tax credit. Now, it sounds as simple as ITC, but there are certain basic rules where someone can claim ITC or cannot claim ITC. So can you give us a brief understanding about this concept of ITC and what is it all about? Colin, are we connected?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I was asking if you can give us a brief understanding about what is this concept of ITC?
ITC, as far as it is in simple and basic, we can say when I procure any goods or services, we normally pay tax. So whatever it may be, presently earlier we used to pay VAT, earlier we used to pay service tax. Presently it is GST. So when we are procuring the goods or services, whatever GST will pay, it will be netted off against my output tax liability. Output tax liability in the sense, suppose I'm a service provider or manufacturer of goods or supplier of goods, I need to pay tax. So when I'm paying taxes, whatever output tax liability need to be adjusted, whatever taxes when I paid procuring my services as well as goods. So this concept is in simple is input tax credit. So netting off in basically.
So it's basically you buy something, you have paid tax on it, you take credit of it when you're selling it.
Yes. So when I'm making the payment of taxes, that is my output tax liability. When I'm discharging my output tax liability, I need to pay only the balance tax, that is the netted tax. So while I'm arriving at the net tax liability, whatever taxes I have paid at the time of procuring services or goods, I need to be adjusted. So whatever this adjustment, that called as input tax credit.
Okay, got it. So if I have to give a practical example, say we are purchasing goods for 100 rupees and the GST on it is 12%. And after processing, the final goods is sold for 120 rupees and the GST on that is 18%. So then only the net amount, what is remaining, balance is supposed to be paid.
Yeah,
and that amount
this entire exercise, whatever we call, so that is netting off. So whatever adjustment is happening, that is whatever credit, whatever you have paid, that is called as basically it is called as, in simple terms, it is ITC.
Okay. So now I believe that this is when we purchase goods which we further consume it probably for manufacturing or for refurbishing. But there comes a situation where some of the goods are lost in transit or are lost because of wear and tear. So how do you say we can claim ITC in those cases? When you say compared to goods consumed and compared to goods lost, how can we claim the eligible ITC then?
Before going to that question, remind me if I'm off the track. So before answering that your questions, so basically we need to understand before understanding, so section 16 of GST law says when I am eligible to claim the credit. So when I am eligible to claim the credit, the conditions are subsection 16 subsection 1 says the procurement of the supply of goods should be from a registered person to another registered person. That is wonderful, fine. The second question is whatever procurement of goods or services, those should be in the course or furtherance of business. So there are two terms have been used. So there is the trigger one is the first condition. It should be in the course or furtherance of business. So in the course means in the business operations or during the business operations or furtherance of his business. That means what is further? Further means advancement of that particular business or development of that particular business. So today GST law says if you compare it with the service tax law or central excise law, it was saying it should be for the purpose of manufacturing or for the purpose of output services. Whereas in GST as far as concerned, it is totally a liberal approach. If you can see, it should be in the course or furtherance of business. So if any goods or services are utilized for the purpose of your in the course or furtherance of business, you are eligible to claim the credit. Now I am coming to your question, lost. So now when I am coming to lost, goods lost, you have to reverse the credit. Now lost, there is a meaning to it. See, now when I am utilizing my goods for the purpose of manufacture, it is consumed in the manufacture. There may be little wastage will be there. Can we consider wastage as lost? No, because those goods are consumed in the manufacturing process or during the course of supply or for the purpose of provision of service. Those goods have been utilized, those goods have been consumed. We cannot say those goods have been lost. They are utilized in the business. What is lost? Goods lost means they are not available for the purpose of commercial use or business use at all. Say for example, if I am storing the goods in my godown, so they lost there itself. They are not available for commercial use or for my business use. Then you are liable to reverse the credit, not otherwise. There may be a possibility goods are available, used in the manufacture, and during the course of manufacture they lost. Then there is no reversal of credit is required because those goods have been utilized or consumed in the course of business. So there is this, we cannot say that these goods have been lost. These goods have been consumed in the course of manufacture or in the course of providing services.
Okay. So there is a difference between loss and wastage. That's yes. The crux of what you're telling me.
Yes. Okay. Wastage is in during the course of business. So it is consumed in the course of business, or so the reversal of credit is not required.
Got it. So now here you told me about loss, you told me about wastage, you told me about consumption in course of furtherance of business. Now sometimes what happens is these goods are used for personal consumption as well. Yes. That time what?
See, now we have to basically understand what is personal consumption.
Okay.
Section 17 subsection 5 subclause G says goods or services are both used for personal consumption. So we have to understand basically what is personal consumption. Now suppose a private limited company can consume personally? No. So personally in the sense, basically we have to understand the person who is registered person who is capable of making personal use. Now if you go back to section 16, again I am going back to that basic condition I said. It should be used in the course or furtherance of business. Basically, it should be used in the business. There is section 17, subsection 1 of GST law says, if the goods are utilized for non-business purposes, please understand, non-business purposes, then reversal of credit will be applicable. Now, if you read, one is for business purpose, if it is non-business purpose. Now, if you read personal consumption in the sense, those goods are not used, those goods have been used by the either proprietor or by the company. It should be not in the course of business, but it is for the purpose of the registered person using that particular goods for the purpose of or services for the purpose of his personal use or his personal consumption. Say for example, I'll give an example here. Guest house expenses. A company is maintaining the guest house where a company may be shifting here one branch to another branch, or he's going on a deputation one branch to another branch. So his employees are staying there. So can we say this guest house expenses are used for the purpose of personal consumption? No. A television is used in the premises of business, which is used by the employees for the purpose of watching news or entertainment or new product ideas or anything, or consumption of water. So all these are not coming under the purview of personal consumption at all. So these are business expenses. So when you are understanding personal consumption and vis-a-vis with the business, so we have to understand personal consumption in the sense that particular goods used by the registered person, not by the employees. If an employee is utilizing guest house or television or water or any services, those resources are utilized by the employee, provided by the employer in the course or furtherance of the business. So it is not be treated as a personal consumption. So personal consumption in the sense, it is something else which is registered person is using, who is capable of using those resources, either goods or services, for his private or personal use. So this differentiation we have to understand when we are understanding the term personal consumption.
Got it. Okay, so makes sense. We spoke about loss, we spoke about wastage, we spoke about personal consumption, and now we are talking about input tax credit. When we talk about input tax credit, the government of late has started this system of auto-populating the details or sending an auto-populated, auto-drafted statement in GSTR 2A and 2B. Now, what is your take on it? How valid is that document, or can ITC be denied or claimed based on that document?
Basically, if you see section 37 and 38, it talks about procedural aspects. Basically, 2A is a beneficial provision. Actually, it is not a written at all. If you go to section 16, subsection 2, there are conditions have been enumerated. To avail the GST input tax credit, you need to have an invoice, and goods or services you need to be receiving. And the third thing is the taxes actually charged by the supplier of goods or services, he should be paying all those taxes to the government, and finally return has to be filed. So third condition is the supplier of goods or services, whether he is paying taxes or not. This condition has to be satisfied. Now, whereas if you see 2A is a beneficial, it is a convenience purpose. That particular provision has been enabled in the GST law when the GST law has been introduced. So a supplier has uploaded those details, and those details have been reflected in 2A of that person who is recipient of goods or services. So this is only a convenience purpose. So now convenience has been converted into a provision where if it is not reflected in 2A, you are not eligible to claim the credit at all. So actually, strictly speaking, this should not be the reason. When we are transitioned into GST, the condition was, the intention was to give seamless input tax credit. So basically that 2A should not be a hurdle for restricting my input tax credit. But however, the machinery provision which was not there in section 16 was introduced with effect from that Wide Finance Act 2021, which was enacted 28/3/2021. But however, this provision, there is a subclause AA has been introduced, where if it is not reflected, if the ITC or supplies of goods or services not being reflected in 2A, then the recipient of goods or services is not eligible to claim the credit. So this is yet to be notified. If you go to Finance Act, the provisions of certain provisions are yet to be notified. That is in respect of GST is concerned. certain provisions of, though Finance Act has been enacted on 28/3/2021, but the amendment in respect of GST is concerned yet to be notified. So we have to wait for the notification. But strictly speaking, whatever the 2A, whatever enactment, restriction of credit is not correct. But there are so many petitions are pending in various high courts, so we have to wait for the decisions to come.
Okay, so right now you're telling me about 2A that it is still not notified. Then what about 2B?
2B is a thing, again, see, whatever you have uploaded in 2A, so there is a time limit to upload the details. Say, for example, GSTR 1 can be uploaded, the supplies can be uploaded up to 11th of subsequent month. So if you upload all those details by 11th of subsequent month, all those details will be reflected in 2A as well as in 2B. So the cutoff date will be 11th of subsequent month. If at all a supplier is uploading delayed GSTR 1, so suppose that person is uploading after 11th of subsequent month, so those details will not be reflected in that particular 2B of that particular month. So basically 2A will be reflected, but it will not be reflected in 2B of that particular month, but it will be reflected 2B of subsequent whatever tax period. So basically this is the terminology they have been adopted.
Got it. Okay.
So everything it will go for a litigation. So we have to wait. So right now we can say it is people are complying with 2A and 2B. Some people are claiming entire input tax credit. They are going for a litigation. So it is a mix and match. So ultimately, it will be for the person who is claiming input tax credit, because it will be a great hit on his working capital.
Got it. Okay. So we spoke about 2A, 2B. We spoke about how it happens when you're doing your business. There's another question which I received recently, which is about CSR activities.
Yes.
Now, CSR activities, I understand it's from the Companies Act requires companies with certain criteria to do the CSR activities.
Yes.
Now, in that case, can ITC be claimed for the expenses, or how do we approach that situation?
Again, I'm going back to first condition. Any expenditure is incurred or goods or services are procured for the purpose of business purpose. I think it is in the course or furtherance of business, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit. Now I am going to Companies Act 2013, where exactly the section 135 very clearly says there are certain activities where you have to, a company whose turnover is more than 1,000 crores, or net worth is 500 crores, or profit 5 crores or more, you have to 2% of the average net profits you have to deploy for the CSR activities. This is in respect of the entities which are coming under the purview of Companies Act 2013. So there are entities which are individuals, proprietary concern, partnership firms. So where it is not coming under the Companies Act. So now we can take a stand saying that it is in respect of the entities which are coming under the Companies Act. So we can take a stand saying that these are the statutory obligations. So company has to incur this particular CSR expenditure. So the in respect of CSR expenditure, the ITC cannot be denied. So whereas in respect of individuals or proprietorship concern, partnership concerns, so the question may arise whether it is a statutory obligations. So if you see these CSR activities, why we are spending all these things? Whether why? Because business, it is in the society, it is in the public domain. So there is a certain expectations from the public. So when I am spending something, there will be a brand image, goodwill will be created among the public. So that will be indirectly will be helping my business to grow. So ultimately, whatever expenditure I am incurring, it is for the purpose of business. Definitely, you are eligible to claim the credit. So now this is one aspect of it. So now if you go to Income Tax Act 1961, Section 37, the explanation, section 37 subsection 1 explanation 2 has been added, Finance Bill 2014, where it says this expenditure, CSR expenditure, they are very clearly denied that deductible expenditure as a deductible expenditures. So the expenditure incurred on CSR activities will be disallowed. But the basic intention of the legislature, the introducing this explanation, they very clearly said society is in public domain or in the society. So the entities should be supporting the government in developing the social infrastructure and developing the society, standard of living and all those things. So basically their intention is they are not going to subsidize this expenditure by giving a tax deduction. If you see, if you give a deduction of 30% or whatever tax deduction, if it is an allowable expenditure, then to the extent of tax, it will be subsidized by the government. So government's intention is not to subsidize this expenditure by way of tax. So that was its intention. So when I am coming to GST law, we cannot implement, we cannot imbibe the explanation whatever given in the income tax law. GST law, if that expenditure is utilized for the purpose of my furtherance of business, because of my incurring CSR expenditure, my brand will be grown, my business image will be grown. So I'm uplifting my company to the public. So indirectly, it will create a brand image and it will be impact on my business also. So definitely CSR activities, you are eligible to claim the credit. So there is a settled judgments also. There is a, in respect of GST is concerned, Kerala, that is Polycab Wires Private Limited in 2019, advance ruling, Kerala advance ruling authority said CSR activities, the eligibility credit will not be there. But whereas recent advance ruling in 2020, that is in respect of UP, Dwarikesh Sugar Industries Limited, they held, yes, you are eligible to claim the credit. CSR activities, it is used in the course of furtherance of business. The expenditure incurred in respect of goods or services utilized for the CSR activities, yes, you are eligible to claim the credit.
Okay, so that's a good take up.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so when we were talking about these multiple sections, there was another question that came in my mind about retention money. So what is your take on the concept of retention money and the implications of ITC on retention money?
Basically, there is a condition under section 16 subsection 2. There is a condition. Payment for the supplier of goods or services, that is recipient of service, has to pay to the vendor within 180 days. So that amount has to be paid within 180 days. So if there is any failure to pay to the supplier within 180 days, it amounts to that proportionately or to the extent of whatever amount we have to reverse the credit. Now I wanted to see, we have to see what is fails to pay or failure to pay. So we have to go to Contract Act. So this retention money basically comes under the understanding of the Contract Act. So when I am entering into a contract, say for example construction contract, when I am a contractor submitting the bills to the contractee, as per the terms of the contract, either 2% or 5%, the money will be deducted. So, and it will be as per the specific terms of the contract, and particularly for the performance of the contract, that amount will be deducted. So both the parties are agreeing here. This amount, whatever it will be deducted, it is specific performance of the contract. So though it is retained as per the Contract Act or in terms of the contract, basically here the failure to pay will not come, because this money is already treated as paid. If you see, though it is not paid as per the contract law, it is not paid because it is maybe retained for the purpose of defect liability period will be there, or specific performance of the contract in terms of the contract. So we have to see this provision. There is no failure to pay within 180 days. So the reversal of credit will come only if that amount is not paid within 180 days, fails to pay. So when it comes to retention money, it is not failure to pay or fails to pay. So in respect of retention money, there is the input tax credit will reversal will not be required.
So the concept of retention money also seems to be pretty straightforward. Can you hear me, Colin?
Yeah, voice is a little breaking.
Okay, so I was saying the concept of retention money also looks pretty straightforward. It was just, I guess, we just hyped it to not understand it, but the concept looks pretty straightforward here.
It is straightforward, but there are, see, my opinion is different, your opinion is different, but other if the department is looking into in other aspect, but definitely it will be settled one day. Definitely you are eligible to claim the credit in respect of retention money is concerned.
Got it. Okay. So let's pick up a few questions what our audience have asked us. Okay. So to start with, Mr. Bhavesh is asking us, if I spent money on employee for my business purpose, can I claim the input tax credit?
Definitely, nature of expenditure. If you say nature of expenditure, definitely if you are spending any expenditure on employee for the purpose of business, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit. It is used in the purpose of business.
Okay, so it should be used for the purpose of business.
Business, definitely.
Got it. So probably it needs to be claimed as an expense in the P&L account, then it is considered to be used for the purpose of business.
Yeah, but there are certain expenditures which are outrightly restricted. Say, for example, outdoor catering, supply of outdoor catering, or insurance, medical insurance, or if you are using membership or leave travel concessions, these are under straightaway restricted categories. Other than this, any expenditure which is used for the purpose of business, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit. There are certain items which are specifically restricted. Apart from this, if you are incurring an expenditure for the purpose of business and for the employees, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit.
Got it. He has another question. This is regarding GSTR2B. He says, in GSTR2B data was reflecting in the last month. What about the credit which is pending since last 3 to 4 months?
That you have to reconcile. You have to reconcile, and you can claim the credit. This is totally a system based, and this is there is no legal implications. But only the thing is, this is the arithmetical computation. You have to reconcile, and wherever you are not claimed, you can claim the credit. You need to ascertain whether that supplier has uploaded or not. Corresponding communication has to be done with the supplier when exactly he has uploaded the details, whether he has uploaded or not uploaded. If it is uploaded, when he has uploaded. These are the things we have to ascertain. Then only, yes, if it is not reflected today, it is up to you whether to claim or not to claim. So most of the businesses are taking a risk factor and claiming the credit, and most of the businesses are not claiming. They are going on the proper compliance mode as per 2A. If it is not reflected in 2B, they are not claiming credit. But here he has to correspond with the proper reconciliation, correspond with the supplier when he is uploaded, whether he is uploaded or not. Then accordingly he can take it forward.
Got it. Okay, I hope your questions are answered, Mr. Bhavesh. We have few more questions. One question is whether ITC eligible or not for safety service goods. Safety services or goods. I think we will need more.
Safety services definitely are used for the purpose of business, whether it is services or it is goods. It is used for the purpose of business. You are eligible to claim the credit.
Got it. Okay. And the next question is, if we talk about 182 days, when will it start or count? So in continuation, Sanjay says, if we have an agreement or a credit period of 9 months, what's the position of 182 days?
See, that's what 180 days is as per the GST law. If you are not paying within the 180 days, then definitely the restriction will be applicable. But still you have a chance to say that there is no failure to pay, because as per the contract terminology, I have a credit period of so and so days. Still you can go with it. But this issue is subject to litigation.
Okay.
So here one more take is there. Non-payment within 180 days. The law says taxable value along with the taxes, value plus taxes. Suppose if I pay only GST amount to that person, I can claim credit, or whether I need to pay both. So these are the interpretations are available. Suppose if an entity says I already paid the GST amount to the supplier, I am not coming under the bracket of 180 days. Again, that interpretation is also available. So these issues are subject to interpretations and subject to litigation. But my take is, if as per the contract, if you are relying on the contract and there is a clear credit period is available, there is the question of failure to pay will not come as per the contract. But we have to see whether that failure to pay is a failure to pay as per the GST law, 180 days. That again subject to litigation.
There is a similar question on the lines of 180 days. If we have not paid vendor payments before 180 days and ITC avail, as per the provision, we have reversed with interest due to unpaid service. After making the payment, it will be possible to take recredit after September.
Yes, definitely you can claim, because the time limit of September is not applicable, but in respect of this subject to other eligibility, because it has to be reflected in 2A and all those things will be seen. Again, I am going back, proper compliance. So if you have reflected in 2A, you are eligible to claim the credit. Then if you have to see within 180 days, within 180 days it is not been paid, so then you are reversing the credit. So that has been paid after September. That September time limit will not be applicable in respect of these kind of credits. Time limit is not applicable, because first of all, you have availed the credit within the period before September itself. You have reversed before September because non-payment within 180 days, and again you are re-availing that particular credit after making the payment. Then definitely you are eligible to claim the credit. The time limit of September is not applicable in these cases.
I hope your question was answered. The next question is, why ITC is denied in hands of buyer if supplier has not deposited the tax to the government? I believe there is a lot of discussion going about this particular case.
Definitely, I also sorry to say this, because supplier has been not, because this earlier in VAT regime also this has been went up till in Arise India case, that is decided by the Supreme Court also, saying that for the mistake of the supplier, the punishment should not be given. We should not be victimized the recipient. So similar law will be logic will be applicable here also. So we have to wait for the days to come. So right now, it will be continuing saying that if it is not reflected, same thing. If the person is not paid or not uploaded, the supplier has not uploaded, supplier has not paid, supplier has that particular credit is not reflected in 2A, definitely department will come and reverse your credit. Definitely, only the thing is you have to claim in a litigation later. But there is a settled judgment in earlier law, that is in respect of VAT law has been concerned, Arise India Limited, which has been decided by Supreme Court, saying that you should not be victimizing because of the non-compliance of the supplier of goods.
So we just have to wait for the government to officially declare it in the act, I think, to take any steps.
No, that government will not be declaring officially. So ultimately, what will happen is the law is evolving. So right now, a lot of litigations are pending, a lot of petitions are pending. Similarly, this will also climb the litigation ladder. So tomorrow, judiciary will be interpreting the law. So they may be declaring the law. Then yes, this will be treated as unconstitutional, or there may be amendments may come. So may come. So ultimately, these issues are subject to litigation.
Got it. Next, we have a question. Can ITC be claimed on electrical equipment? And with electrical equipment, the person means fans, AC, etc.
Definitely, you can utilize use this since it is fans, AC, electrical equipments are used for the purpose of business. You are eligible to claim the credit
because it's used for business purposes. If we have to
business purposes, but you have to see these might have been capitalized in the business, so you have to claim it as a capital goods.
Got it. Regarding the 180 days thing, what we were talking about, there is another question which says, if input is reversed after 180 days, where the purchaser can claim again after payment made to him supplier, so how can he claim it? Like a part of it.
180 days, you have. Yeah, already I answered this query. So you have claimed this credit, you have reversed this particular, and that has not been paid within 180 days. Correct, right?
Yeah.
Same question. So you have not paid in 180 days, so you have to reverse. So again, that particular reversal is happening in the return only. Again, it has to be claimed in the particular return only.
Got it.
But there will be a respective column will be available. So in that column only you have to put reversal, because reversal there will be a reason why you are reversing.
Got it.
So in that column only you have to reflect that amount and you have to reverse it.
Okay, we have a lot more questions, but let's just pick up selective 2-3 more because we are running out of time. Next one is from Mr. Sanjeev. He asks us, there are some ITC incurred on imported goods and having valid BOEs, but ITC is not reflected in our GSTR 2A, even GSTR 2B. What is your opinion whether we can avail the imported ITC, mostly goods imported through cargo and BOE filed by them, and we are disbursing them with IGST and their service charges?
My suggestion is, first you if it is going to be time barred, please claim that credit. Before that, you can talk to your supplier also, whether he has uploaded the details and all those things. And here the import of goods, this is in respect of import of goods, right? So import of goods, the ITC has to be, it is reverse charge, will be applicable. So I need to be claiming this credit. So very well, you can claim the credit. There is no problem at all. But you need to, because here certain issues will be happening in technically. So iGate portal and GST, sometimes there will be technical issues will be there. So some credit will not be reflected in your portal. So, but you can address these issues with the help desk. But however, even though it is not reflected in respect of import of goods, or services have been concerned, since you are liable for under reverse charge, or you might have paid through customs channel, so you are very well eligible. You please claim the credit.
Got it. Okay. The next one is, can ITC be denied for the reason that the supplier has not filed GSTR 1 but not has filed GSTR 1 but not filed GSTR 3B, and they have not deposited the tax collected from us to the government? I think we spoke again about this, the case law.
Again, I already discussed.
Yes.
This issue already been discussed. So same issue. Even though if it is not reflected in 2A, you can claim the credit. So again, he has not filed his returns, not paid the taxes. Once it is reflected in 2A, it is understood that it is as good as he has filed the return. So it is up to the government to take up or initiate any action against him. That doesn't mean that our authorities will not come to you and ask you to reverse the credit. Definitely all these hassles will be there, but you have to go in the right approach. Definitely you are eligible to claim the credit.
Got it. Next, if we have purchased for a guest house to you, which is used for our customers to stay, can we avail ITC like broadband connection or cement tiles?
See, in this case, construction related repair. See here, if the credit is utilized for the purpose of construction related activities, you are not eligible to claim the credit at all. But however, the repairs or maintenance and all those things, to the extent of capitalization, you are not eligible. Suppose if there is a daily maintenance, monthly maintenance, yearly maintenance of that particular guest house, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit. But how you are treating that particular expenditure? If you are capitalizing that particular expenditure, then you are not eligible to claim the credit at all. Now, if you are constructing additional room to that particular guest house, then you are capitalizing that particular expenditure, and it is a construction related expenditure. So you are not eligible to claim the credit at all. However, if you are maintaining the guest house and all those things, those expenditure you are eligible to claim the credit, because customer is very important, because you are treating a customer and thinking that you are getting it is a probable business for you. So definitely whatever expenditure incurred in respect of maintaining the guest house, definitely it will be a business expenditure, and it is the expenditure incurred in the course of furtherance of business. Definitely you are eligible to claim the credit, subject to, again, there is a restriction category in respect of construction related activities. If you are that we have to see, it is subject to capitalization. Suppose if you are treating it as a maintenance, it is a daily maintenance or yearly maintenance, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit. Suppose if you are capitalizing it, then it will be treated as a immovable property. So ITC in relation to immovable property, you are not eligible.
Got it. Another question is, if broadband connection is used by the plant head for office use, can we claim ITC?
Broadband connection?
Broadband connection used by plant head for office use.
Definitely you are eligible to claim the credit.
And similarly, if some capital goods like AC are purchased and are installed at director's home, can we claim the ITC?
Director's home?
Yeah.
Definitely you are, because it is a business expenditure, you are eligible to claim the credit. But again, there will be authorities will come, it is for the personal consumption. Now you have to justify saying that how it is related to the business. This thing will be there. So definitely you are eligible to claim the credit.
If you can prove that it is for business purposes.
Yes.
Okay. Next, there is something about CENVAT credit. CENVAT credit of service tax paid on outward freight was not allowed under Service Tax Act. Is same rule here available under GST, or can we claim ITC on freight outward?
Definitely you are eligible to claim the freight outward, you can eligible to claim the credit. There is no restriction as such.
Okay. So
there is no restriction as such, but only the thing is RCM will be applicable. GTA services, there will be RCM will be applicable. After paying tax on RCM, definitely the credit will be eligible.
Got it. When you're saying about RCM, there's another question which we can club with it. Self-invoice in case of RCM raised without QR code and IRN. Is this right document to avail ITC? Due to which it is not, it's not reflecting in GSTR 2A.
Definitely, it is a. You are paid the GST on that. So, and it is self-invoicing is applicable. Self-invoicing is applicable in respect of RCM is concerned. Definitely, you are eligible to claim the credit.
Last two questions. If we have purchased furniture for our guest house, this is for the customers and guests, can we avail ITC?
Yeah, yes, already we answered in respect of guest house, it is a business expenditure, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit.
Next, ITC on lift or lifts is allowed or not? We have for the movement of custom, one lift is for movement of customers and second for the movement of goods alone.
Definitely you are eligible because it is a plant and machinery. So again, capitalization will matter. So how you are capitalized. So because of lifts, you are using for the purpose of manufacturing, and it will be a plant and machinery. Definitely you are eligible. Now in respect of secondly, if you are installed that particular in your hotel or any building, definitely it will be used for your business purpose. Again, you are eligible to claim the credit. There are different views. There are advanced rulings also, and various states advanced rulings have decided in different ways. Again, authorities will take a different view. In my view, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit.
Got it.
Subject to capitalization, it will be treated as a capital goods, and it depending upon how you'll capitalize, because definitely lift will be capitalized as a plant and machinery. Plant and machinery. There is a restriction under GST law in respect of immovable property as concerned. However, plant and machinery, even though it is immovable, though there is a immovability, so definitely there will be a carve out will be there, because it will not be related to immovable property or construction related activities. So plant and machinery has been carved out from ineligibility. Definitely you are eligible to claim the credit, but how you have capitalized in your books of accounts.
So Mr. Sanjay has another point here. He says that but lift as per advanced authority rulings is considered as a part of building, as an immovable property. So then in that case, how do we approach it?
No, that's why. See, there are different opinions about that. So where you have installed that particular plant and machinery, that will be a guiding factor. Suppose if that particular lift has been installed even in your factory building, and you are utilizing that particular lift for the purpose of goods, or lifting the goods, or for the purpose of transporting the goods from one floor to another floor of the production area, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit. And when you are capitalizing also, it should not be a part of your land and building. It should be capitalized as a plant and machinery. So again, I am telling, this is the issue is subject to litigations. There are various advanced ruling authorities have been held. It is favor. Some advanced ruling authorities have been held in otherwise also. But advanced ruling authorities' decision will be applicable only in respect of that particular applicant. But we can guess or we can sense the interpretations or whatever litigation involved in coming days. Definitely one day in SESTAT you can definitely, because earlier in service tax these credits have been allowed by the SESTAT. So definitely going by those rulings, definitely you are eligible to claim the credit. But only the caution is you have to climb the litigation ladder.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have two questions. We'll take that, but we are not going to take questions after that. This has been a very interactive session with a lot of questions. So here the question reads, whether ITC is applicable or not against government service under RCM.
Government services you are paid under RCM. Again, see, now the thing is, it is depending upon the eligibility. Now I need to understand what exactly the nature of business. Then only I can comment on that. Suppose, say for example, now I am a chartered accountant, or suppose I am a trading industry. I need to obtain a license from my local authorities. Say I am a trading industry or manufacturing industry. I need to obtain a license from my local authorities or from industrial board. That particular time I am paying certain license fees to the government. So that license fee I need to pay under reverse charge. So definitely without that license I cannot do the business. Definitely it will be in relation to my business. So whatever I am GST I have paid on RCM on those particular licenses, definitely I am eligible to claim the credit.
Got it. I hope that answered your question. And the last one is RCM of one financial year, can we utilize it in the next financial year?
Definitely, you can eligible to claim the credit utilization in. See, there are claiming is different, utilization is different. So claim will be first. So you have to pay, then you have to claim. And again, when claiming also, September time limit will be applicable. Utilization, it is up to you. Once you, the claim is important. Once you pay, then claim. Claim should be within the time limit. Then utilization, it is like funds in the bank account. It is up to you when to utilize.
Great. I hope that answered your question, Mr. Bhavesh. Okay, so we have someone asking if we have the recorded version of this video. Yes, within an hour you will receive an email from us at Masters India with the recorded version of this entire session. Additionally, it will be uploaded on Masters India's YouTube channel and our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter pages. You can view it from there as well. So you all can refer to this very insightful and heavy discussion session.
Can I take 1 minute?
Sure. Yes.
So I wanted to add 2 more things here.
Okay.
Sample and gift. So there is one more contentious issue is I am giving gifts in the course of business. I am giving samples in the course of business. Whether I am eligible to claim the credit of these gifts or sample or not.
Okay. Yes. That's
so if you see, that provision, goods lost, stolen, destroyed, written off or disposed of by way of gift or free samples. That particular provision, if you see thoroughly, that says that particular the gifts or free samples given whatever services or goods, it should be those goods should not be available for commercial use or business use at all. Suppose I'm a trader, I'm a manufacturer, I'm giving gifts to my customer, probable customers, or free samples to customers or probable buyers. The authorities may say there is no consideration is involved. Actually, if I'm giving samples, I'm getting the feedback. Feedback itself is a consideration for me. I'm giving a gift. Why I'm giving a gift? Because tomorrow I am thinking that may be a probable customer for me. I want to continue my business relationship. Ultimately, whatever goods I'm giving, free samples and gifts to continue a business relationship, definitely it is used for the purpose of business. And in the course or furtherance of the development of the business, definitely I'm eligible to claim the credit. And here I wanted to add one more thing. Goods written down or reduction in value or written off. These terms are two different things, because as per the accounting principles, I'm revaluing my goods or writing down those particular goods to the lesser value, whether it amounts to written off. Again, so merely reduction in value of that particular goods or writing down that particular writing down in my books of account that particular value of that particular goods doesn't mean that those goods are not available for my use or for my commercial use or for my manufacture. Written off or write off means those goods are completely gone out of my commercial use commercial use or not available for the business use at all. So these terminologies we need to understand: written off or reduction in value or written down. Similarly, gift as well as sample.
Got it. That was a good closing remark. Colin, are we connected?
Yeah.
Yes. So I was saying it's been a wonderful session with so many questions and your wonderful insights to the concept of ITC. I hope you had a good time with us.
Yeah, definitely. Before closing, this is a closing remark you can say. When I'm doing some research, I got this word, crazy. This will be definitely, I'll share it with you, because and for the viewer also and audience also. when we are ITC is very contentious issue. It is, you can take otherwise and you can decide also. I got this sentence from one famous journalist called Hunter. His name I forgot, but that sentence I remember. Crazy is a word of art. Insane is a word of law. So we have to understand the difference between two. We can save a lot of trouble. So similarly, in ITC, there are a lot of contentious, the opinions, suggestions, advices. So ultimately, how you take up, how you interpret it, how will be settled in court of law, how you prove your point. So ultimately, that is your choice. It is ultimately, definitely you can take it along in those directions.
Great.
Over to you.
Great. A great point to note. Okay, so we have already got positive feedback that people have enjoyed our session. I'm glad we could have this session today. And to all our audience, thank you for being a wonderful audience. Do join us for the next sessions. We will keep you all informed. You all can follow our social media pages to stay informed about our next sessions. And Colin, thanks once again for joining us. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so until the next time, all of you all, please be safe, take care. We are in difficult situations in the country. A sincere request, please stay at home and be safe. And till the next time, see ya. Bye-bye. Bye, Colin. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Be safe. Take care.